Yo, everybody, it's me, Pops Van Zant from the Madness Comic Network, and I want you to have a heads up and look out for our sign-up page for the Roku campaign on Kickstarter. We're going to be trying to get the funding to get the Roku channel set up for people like that guy, the guy who's recording this, can get his show up there on Roku and start getting monetization today. So check us out, sign up, be ready. Peace.
Fairview's coffee has mysteriously gone missing. Mayhem ensues when strange, coffee-craving zombies plague the city. Detective Mickey Potatoes, an overworked public servant, uncovers why ordinary citizens are losing their minds and how to stop the coffee apocalypse. But it involves the mafia. And when you're dealing with mafia crime families, nothing is ever easy. The mafia controls everything in the city, including the police, including him. If he breaks the mafia, they will break him. So, the city is without coffee. The city is burning before his very eyes, but he's powerless. Detective Potatoes has the power to stop the coffee apocalypse, but if he does, he could lose everything.
Alright, boys and girls, this is Ron from Romo Art, also from Sector 7. Alright, take two. Nope. All right.
What's up?
There it is. How you doing, buddy?
Not too shabby. Not
Yeah?
too shabby. Nah.
All right.
Kind of. Well, we're getting there.
Yeah.
I have work tomorrow, believe it or not.
Work like which job?
Like my teaching job. Like I have actual work tomorrow. Well, it's technically it's a orientation, but even though I've already been there, but 3 days of that, so it's gonna be
3 days.
awesome. 3 days
Oh, wow.
of that,
Great.
and
Great.
and you're salaried, so it's really not paid.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
whatever.
All
We'll
right,
get through.
so this is going to be the first episode of the Adventures of MattMan and Romo. Now, I've mentioned a few times that a while ago, before we started this whole journey that we're on, me and Matt were going to make a YouTube channel first and do it the proper way. and so this we had done a few audio versions where we weren't filming each other. We were just sitting next to each other talking about it. We've got it on audio. So tonight we're going to be discussing why the Nolan Batman trilogy is not as good as you remember, because this is something that me and Matt consistently talk about at every birthday party that we're at, on every get together, every hangout session. Eventually this comes up. I don't know how it makes its way into the conversation, but we've always talked about this. So after we're done with this, just so everyone's aware, my wife and my producer, Brittany, is going to upload the original audio file. And that's going to be, I forget what I want. We'll title that, like, maybe not director's cut, but like original score or something like that. Okay. Our director's commentary, it says, I guess. So it's all ready to load on YouTube. So you're going to have two versions of this, because there's going to be points in both. Like, we're not going to remember exactly what we said like a year ago. And it was a great conversation. So I don't want to lose those points that we made if we don't discuss them here. So this is our first filmed episode with an awesome intro that Brittany made. Again, I got a great producer that I get to sleep with too. And sorry, man, I know you don't like that, but I gotta say it.
What? Don't like what?
I know,
it's great for you. I don't necessarily, I've known you a long time. I don't necessarily need that imagery, but we're good. I'm still amazed, to be honest. Like, daily, I'm still really amazed. So I gotta throw that out there whenever I can. Two of my favorite people.
Brittany's saying,
Two of
talk
my
about
favorite
Batman,
people.
shut the fuck up. So I did listen to a bit of the audio clip. It was yesterday, and we started out with basically the first movie. All right, because it actually gets progressively fucking worse, and it doesn't take long. And by the third one, before we even came on, you were telling me that you listened. The voice in the third one was just to the point where it was ridiculous, because Nolan, like, I just think it's a middle finger to the fans from Nolan, or to the studio, because maybe he didn't want to do another big budget movie. Like, no, you guys don't like the voice? Here's more. Too bad.
It almost sounded like he had like cotton in his mouth by the third one.
So
like,
bad.
It was really ridiculous and over the top. And I think I had so many other issues, because when I watch a movie, like, primarily I can't shut my brain off. It's just how I'm wired.
Yeah.
And that, like, I when I was watching that one, I couldn't help but just find so many of the plot points ridiculous, right? Yeah. But I think we wanted to start with the first one, right? Because
let's just start with the first one, because the first one, honestly, as a movie, as a whole, production, the art director, everything, right? The cinematography, as a movie, I think the first one, even though it's not everyone's favorite, it's by far, again, I try to speak objectively. So it doesn't matter which one you like. That's okay. Objectively, the first movie is the best production, I think.
It's interesting. I think the first movie's great. I think it's got a really nice plot. I still think Dark Knight is probably, in my opinion, the best of the three overall, but the first one's really solid. It still has some issues though. Like there was still some things in it that I wasn't terribly fond of. Nolan always seemed to have this weird. He would pick and choose when to commit to a character as like a character from a comic book.
A comic book. That was your gripe in the original audio.
Yeah,
it was and you've said that so many times. It's afraid to call itself a comic book movie.
Right, and it really kind of like you're talking about a guy who's trained by a secret society of ninjas, and everyone's like, well, I love how real it is. It's like, okay, it's real, and
Everyone
fine,
knows
whatever.
A ninja.
Yeah. I mean, he's a bat ninja, but it's realistic. But at the same time, like we also get stuff where Scarecrow is afraid to be Scarecrow. Like that was too much.
That was the toughest part. So in order to have a good movie with a good guy, you know the rules. You need an equally good bad guy. Now in the second and third movie, they sold it, all right, because Batman started to tank a little bit. But in the first movie, his voice and everything, I thought everything was great. But the bad guy, like you can't wear a 3-piece suit with a burlap sack over your face and just say, "Hey, I'm Scarecrow."
Right.
They tried to give him a reason why, like he put it on purposely to scare patients, but no, it doesn't really work like that.
Right, and you have, of course, Ra's al Ghul, which the trilogy pronounces as Raz. I'm not really. It's weird. I tend to go back and forth now because of those movies. But you have Ra's, and he's really lacking all the things that make him Ra's al Ghul from the comic books. And so you have this weird duality where they try to do something real, but then they sort of, with the rest of the trilogy, move away from that into the ridiculous almost. And so I guess I saw what they were doing at first, but again, later on, they don't seem to stick to that commitment. I mean, if you want to, nitpick the Joker a little bit, who the character itself is amazing, but like he, on some level doesn't fit the same way. It was one of the few, the couple of times they call him by his name, they call Bane by his name, but then they were, they're scared to call Two-Face Two-Face. They're scared to call Catwoman Catwoman. Like it's just like pick a side and stand on it. Either you're making a cool comic book movie that's got at least some sort of foot in reality, or you want to stay away from that completely.
Yeah.
And just pick one or the other.
And I mean, I thought in the first one, I think in all of them, so that didn't actually bother me until we discussed it the first time. And I had never heard that point thrown out before. And I understood exactly what you meant immediately, of course. Like they never referred to her as Catwoman and all this. To me, it didn't that isn't one of my own personal gripes. I thought they rolled the line as well as they could, taking some fantastical story and trying to ground it in some reality. You can't possibly do it completely, or else it's just not. I mean, there's no at that point. There's no cape. There's no anything. So you have to. I think they rode the line okay. Something you just said though, and this is something that I had not thought of, and we had not talked about before. You mentioned Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul. Think about this. Neither bad guy was that good. Okay, they didn't push the limits of either one. Now, I think I never thought about this before, but I think Batman Begins may be one of the few superhero movies where in the first movie they actually have two bad guys.
Yeah,
they usually do that in the second movie or something, right, to make it bigger. But every time they do, you lose the effect of having enough story of a single bad guy.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the bigger flaws of Batman Begins, is because Scarecrow is more or less a plot device and almost completely unnecessary.
I never thought of that.
Like at the end of the game, at the end of the movie, he just sort of rides off, and it's like, oh,
I know,
he's gone.
I
Like,
know. I said
what just
the
happened?
original audio though. If you shoot me in the face with a taser, I might need to take a day off. You know what
Right. Yeah.
I get it, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's like me and you said before. Like I said in our last talk, it's not exactly a sword fight on top of a church, like in The Crow.
No.
Like, they didn't have that. Whoa! Like even him and Joker had a fist fight where Joker went spaz and actually got the best of him. That was cool.
Right. And you know, you bring up a point, is that movie had two villains, which is true, but it didn't do justice really. I think Ra's al Ghul got the better end of the stick on that. His kind of conflict with Batman was way cooler, and it worked, and it saved the movie really, because
it did.
The Scarecrow did not do anything for it really.
No.
Other than providing the fear gas, which was kind of the catalyst for, you know, the big thing at the end. But you really had two villains that weren't fully realized. And in my opinion, I really would have been interested to see like where that goes. There wasn't even really any hint of, you know, you could have mentioned something to do with the Lazarus pits or something alluding to you know, Ra's al Ghul having some sort of supernatural like longevity or anything. Just give us something other than basically what that character boiled down to is Liam Neeson is awesome, and that's all you need to know.
It was more like he survived by misdirection,
right?
By calling someone else Ra's al Ghul while he was actually Ra's al Ghul,
right?
So, but here, and you mentioned the Lazarus Pit, how it wasn't a fully realized character. Now, something we had discussed before, again, having to do with the Scarecrow, with just basically a psychologist with a sack in his head. If they had taken something like the Arkham Asylum video game version, or any of the Arkham video game versions, even the last one that kind of sucked, but Scarecrow was the main bad guy. He's fucking terrifying.
He is.
He's absolutely like I was an adult male and I was playing some of those Arkham games where where like Batman's walking into the morgue and there's like two body bags and it's his parents. Like that was all Scarecrow. That was really scary.
Yeah, it really was. And I agree, Pixel. The Arkham games did make him super scary. And the thing about the Scarecrow, one, the reason why this is such a touchy point for me is that Scarecrow is one of my favorite Batman villains. Like, it has been since I grew up watching the animated series in the 90s. So I really love Scarecrow, and I wanted to see him done well on the big screen. And unfortunately, it's just, when I heard he was going to be in Dark Knight Rises, I was excited, right? I was like, awesome. Like, maybe they'll finally make him cool, and we'll see that. Nope, didn't happen.
No.
So, the other point is the Arkham games, to me, are probably in my opinion, especially the first couple. You have Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, and Arkham City Origins. Everyone craps on Origins. I really like it.
That was my favorite one. That was my favorite one. I don't give a shit if they had two.
I liked it better than City. I actually liked it better than Arkham City. And I will fight people on that, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, dude. But, that whole, I mean, not to get off subject, which we're going to do because that's what we do.
That's what we do.
That whole thing that game introduced about putting the crime back together, like using the rewind features, like holy shit, that was so cool.
Yeah,
was so cool.
The vibe of that game was just awesome. Like the whole, I mean, it just felt cool. And there's some other issues I had with those games, but I don't want to totally divert us off.
Yeah, topic, I know.
We'll talk about those all the time. Yeah, I know. What'll happen is we'll get off topic, and then we'll have to like make another show where we go back to this. Yeah. It would be like the Nolan films part 6, kind of thing. But yeah, Batman Begins was a really solid movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I think the thing about those films is Nolan's he's so good at making an entertaining movie, and you kind of forgive a little bit, where he falls short. in those. So Scarecrow was a real big disappointment to me. I think we've gone on about Rachel at length, like how she was a completely useless character.
Holy shit, dude. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Just here, let's inject this completely unlikable person into this series for no reason whatsoever.
My God. Listen, I was not, and I did. I actually laughed out loud, like kind of went, yeah, like when she blew up in the second movie in the theater. I was not the only one, by the way. Like,
right.
And then they get someone like, at least Katie, whatever her name is
Katie
at
Holmes.
least on a base level, she's pretty, right? But she's really annoying. But then they get Gyllenhaal, who's not even pretty and annoying. And it's like, holy shit, guys. I swear to God, like you could have gotten so many other people that no one's gonna like. But at least oh Jesus.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe, you know what? She's let's say she's a good actress. Let's just say she's a good actress. That's not the role for her. I'm sorry. Like play some, I don't know, wine drinking soccer mom that you're not happy with your life. That looks like her. But that's not the one. That's not for this movie. Holy shit.
I really like the dynamic in Dark Knight where the Joker essentially psychs out Batman, switches the addresses, and sends him to save Dent instead of knowing he's going to go after Rachel.
Yeah,
sends him after. You know, I love that. That was that payoff is almost worth dealing with her for a movie and a half.
To actually have her explode, you're like, yeah, wow, okay. You made me dislike her, and now you actually took care of the problem. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. It almost seems like that was done on purpose to some extent.
I know. We got to get rid of her somehow. Yeah, I know. I want to say hi really quick to Pixel Trader. And congrats on all the success you've been having, buddy. You've been doing
congrats.
Been doing really good. If I don't say hi to someone, just so everyone knows that right now I'm on my tablet, and the tablets work different than laptops or desktops. I can't see the chat, so I really can't see who's in here or who's not. So I just want to say hi to everyone and thank you for showing up. Don't think I'm ignoring you. I literally can't. I can't see you. So we'll get
Pixel. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Yeah, as this gets bigger, you know what I mean. I'll have a better setup. Maybe someday I'll be able to afford another laptop just to do better streaming.
You got this, Ron. You get to talk. Matt gets to read the comments that Brittany puts up on the screen.
I know.
And it's like trust me, it'll work.
I got a whole great team. I just don't want anyone to think I'm ignoring them.
Just let Matt read the comments as they pop up and respond to them. Not everything is going to be something that needs to be popped up or discussed, like people saying hi to each other and stuff like that. But when somebody has a direct question or something that's pertinent to what you're talking about, then Brittany pops that up and Matt says, hey, so-and-so said blah, 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 blah.
And actually, Pixel was talking about I was born near Team Mark Hamill's Joker. Me too. Actually, I think the reason why I love Arkham Asylum to me is that first Batman game. Outside of some of the comics, that is like the definitive. That Arkham Asylum game is like definitive Batman. Outside of the comic books, if you're looking at another media, to me that was like the animated series done in a more mature way. And made for adults, and I just loved it. You had Kevin Conroy, you had Mark Hamill. It was beautiful. It was amazing. So the other thing was Pixel mentioned the Scarecrow with like the needle fingers and stuff like that, and he was just done so well.
The design and me, obviously as an artist, the design was like, oh my God, it's beautiful and terrifying. Like, I love like the needle fingers. I wouldn't have thought of that. And I love when I see things that I wouldn't have. Not that I'm like amazing, but when as a visual person, if I see something where I'm like, holy shit, I would have never thought of that. Like it wouldn't have even occurred to me. I love it, and because that makes me think more outside the box as well. It's so good. So the first one we got covered. Now, and you know what we might be able to cover. What time is it? 25 minutes maybe. Our first conversation, I thought was like an hour and a half. It was only like 45 minutes or something like that. I was surprised.
We were trying to keep it down because we don't do
3 films though. because we could do like an hour film, no problem, honestly.
Oh yeah, especially if I actually go back and watch them for like homework. Like I think that's what I want to do for next week is whatever we're going to talk about, I want to go back and actually watch. I know these well enough to where I don't need to refresh my memory exactly. And we can kind of move on from the first one a little bit because the Dark Knight really it was my favorite. I still think it's a groundbreaking film. It's really, really well done. Most of the issues that I have with it don't actually stem necessarily from the Dark Knight itself. There's a couple of things that I had an issue with, but actually the Dark Knight Rises causes most of the issues with the Dark Knight.
I know. See, now for me, it's kind of they're equal. They're equal with their problems and they're equal with their glories as well to me.
So what don't you like about Dark Knight?
Okay, so this is my issue with the Dark Knight, and this might have to do with just who Nolan is, because he got tied into a huge contract with a huge company, and I don't think that's really what he enjoys. Whether that was his original contract or whether Batman Begins did well enough to where they convinced him to do more, I don't know, but I can. So the movie itself, on just as a whole, it's awesome. Okay, yeah, it's absolutely awesome. But he, for some reason, again, he took the voice and made it so much worse. So, and it's weird because you can watch the movie, and in the beginning, it's kind of like Batman Begins. He's mostly doing kind of like a gravelly whisper, totally fine, no big deal. But by the end of the movie, that's where the cartoony, like, that's where the memes came in about his voice. That's where he started adding, like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, why are you talking like that? Like, you're literally just talking to someone face to face and you're like growling. Like, what the fuck? Which in the first movie, he only did once when he had the guy strung up and he was trying to intimidate the dirty cop. And that was intense when he did it once. It was hilarious when he did it 5 times and annoying by the 8th time. You know what I mean? So that was a major one. But here's the thing, that was everybody's. We all know it was literally in the papers. And it was, I remember seeing in the newspaper, why did Nolan add extra bass to Batman's voice? Like it's almost like he intentionally made it more annoying by the end of the movie. That was everyone's gripe. My biggest gripe for the second movie was the downplay in production quality. So again, this is going to be objective. The whole monorail system was gone. And they didn't crash the entire monorail at the end of Batman Begins. They crashed a portion of it that was leading into Wayne Tower. Brings me to my next point. Wayne Tower, instead of being this beautifully original designed building with great looking architecture and stone, all of a sudden now it's a black building that you could find in Rochester with a W on it. And it's like, no, what? So everything production wise cheapened. The boardroom. Yeah. Like Batman Begins had beautiful colors and we mentioned this before, of like the yellows and the ochres and the sepias, and the boardroom was all rich wood and mahogany and looked like, holy shit, it's $1 billion boardroom. The second movie, it's a washed out silver with a long table and some windows, and that's all it was. And that shit, like most people aren't going to see this, but we've seen these movies, and especially me, because I have movies in the background while I draw. So I've seen these movies dozens of times. And after a while, you can't not see this stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with you actually, because in the first one, Gotham really had like its own feel. And by the time the Dark Knight happens, it feels like Chicago. Like it really doesn't feel like something unique and different. Nope. And I think that is an issue. I accepted it at the time because truthfully, like I enjoyed the movie so much. It didn't really bother me, but I totally get what you're saying as far as the world building there. Like it stopped.
It got cheap. It not only stopped, it went in reverse.
Right.
It went in reverse. It did. It went in fucking reverse. Like there's no monorail. The building is just a black office building. And I mean, holy shit, the color tones changed to even more realistic colors. Speaking of, like, I wasn't even that impressed with the Gotham that they had built in Batman Begins. When I first saw the movie,
Me neither.
That was actually a big gripe of mine because Gotham City is a fucking character in Batman. That city has a mind of its and something.
I think it was at one point. I'm not even sure at this point. Well, of course, now what is good
now
anymore,
and now it might or might not be. But I tell you, who did make it probably the best that I had seen was the New 52 run with Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Scott Snyder wrote The Court of Owls, and from the very first issue, I could tell he was writing Gotham like it was an entity in and of itself, and it was really, really cool.
Pixel says it's just Chicago now, right? It's like, yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
but
that they could definitely
Chicago needs Batman.
They could definitely use a few Dark Knights, probably.
Yeah.
So, like, I wasn't even that impressed with the Gotham they had made in the first movie when they tried, but they had the Narrows. The Narrows never mentioned again. All right, so the Narrows made it look kind of dirty and grimy. They had the color range. They had the monorail going through the whole thing. So it gave you some visuals to make it look like, okay, it's not just maybe New York or something.
Right.
And it was, and like I said, they went in reverse for the second one. And
they did get really super lazy from there on out. I'm with you on that. It definitely, the world building really, like you said, it goes in reverse and it totally changes. However, as ridiculous as it is, right? At times, because let's face it, The Dark Knight, it does ask you to suspend logic for quite a bit of it, right? Because the Joker does some things that, like driving the bus out of the bank and just getting in line with the other buses.
I know, man.
Like,
I know.
Yeah, why not?
I'll tell you, when I saw it in the theater, and maybe one or two times after that, I'm like, it didn't click. But so me and Matt's whole point of this is it might not be immediate, but the more you watch them, the more they fall apart. That's our point.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
Pixel asks, was it Batman and Robin that had the race through Gotham with the big heads and random roads and such?
Yes. Yeah. That was Batman. Batman Forever may have had one or two scenes like that, but it was Batman and Robin that were like jumping off statues, like statues' fingers and shit. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
There's nothing that movie didn't do, honestly, besides make money.
Well, and to further highlight your point, Tim Burton's Gotham was awesome.
Picture perfect.
Yeah, it was awesome, perfect. Right? It was dark, It was brooding, it was moody. It was great. So, for me, The Dark Knight, and I know Heath Ledger's death really amplified the attention that movie got. Would he have won the Oscar had he not passed away? I don't know, probably not. But I think he definitely he might have deserved to. That
deserved it. Honestly, he deserved it because Heath Ledger was one of the first times that they started casting people that the fans immediately were like viscerally angry about. Like, no, fucking Heath Ledger, like he's too pretty to play the Joker. And then when he did, it was an instant success.
Right. You know what's funny is I remember that. I remember being part of that discussion. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can see it. I didn't hate it because I actually liked Heath Ledger. And I'm going to, turn in my man card here for a second. But there's a teen movie I really like him in from like 98. And as an English teacher, I have a special love for this movie in my heart because it's an adaptation of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, and it's called 10 Things I Hate About You, and it's a really cheesy teen movie, but I really loved him in that. I had this weird sort of like, no, I like Heath Ledger, so I was really curious.
If we're gonna hand in our man cards for a second, I like The Knight's Tale. I had some lesbian friend that dragged me to the theater, right? Because I used to work in an art store in Rochester, and I don't want to fucking see this movie. I actually bought the DVD. I loved A Knight's Tale. It was
Yeah.
There were some great acting scenes in there. It was just a really unique movie. I really liked it.
Yeah, I like Heath Ledger a lot. So I wasn't like, no, how could you do this? But I was a little unsure. I'm like, I don't know what that's
Yeah.
gonna look like. And then he absolutely nails it. And Pixel says that he was an unnerving Joker. Absolutely was. Like he was and Brittany adds that he changed the game of playing the Joker. And I think that's true as well, because it totally reimagined the character and it made it something unique and different that none of us expected. And I think that was so intoxicating, like, to watch.
But the thing is, here's the weird thing though, because here's another reimagining was from the Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah, but that was trash. And there's
I know. So here's the thing: they reimagined it, but only in like let's say they added maybe 1 or 2% across many areas of the Joker, and it worked in a complete and total whole, right? They didn't completely reimagine it. It was still very Joker-esque, depending on what writer you have read or what cartoon you may have saw. But it was still different enough, because you can reimagine and it's total shit, which we've already seen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. If you're going to make changes, well, that's what makes it even more impressive, because they did change the core character of the personality of the Joker. Like, it did it in such a way that was brilliant. So like that could have gone one of two ways. It was either going to go really great or really bad. And it just happened to go really great. And that's what's even more impressive to me, is that not only did he add something to the Joker that I'm not sure anyone could pull off in hindsight. Like, I think it would be really difficult to pull that character in that portrayal off by someone else nowadays, and then not have it just come off as cheesy and fake, just manufactured.
I'd actually like to add something that Michael Jai White played the I forget his name, but he was the bad gangster guy.
Yeah.
That Joker, like, they didn't show what he did. He slit his mouth, but all of a sudden he dropped dead. You know what I mean? It was a weird scene. So I was watching an interview with Michael Jai White. Now, they had, whether they did this just to promote the movie, which it's Hollywood, so they did. They were saying how Heath Ledger like stayed in character and he started losing sleep, and he went all visceral with it and shit. Michael Jai White straight up said that's complete and utter bullshit. He said in between scenes, he said Heath Ledger was a gentleman. He was awesome. And in between scenes, he would just be cracking jokes or they'd be talking normally. He said that was all just Hollywood bullshit. And I was like, wow, that doesn't take away or give anything to the performance. Like, it's just a fact. Like, a lot of that other shit, just complete Hollywood. Nope, just to sell the movie.
Makes sense. And that, but and again, I love what he did there. And we've seen, obviously a lot of people were looking for what's his name? Jared Leto to play the Joker for a while. His name kept coming up for years. In fact, I kept seeing, oddly enough, Joaquin Phoenix and Jared Leto being mentioned for years about playing the Joker. And then he gets a shot and it just totally bombs, and it's awful and one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I think he's an asshole, though. I think, like, in real life, like, he's the one that did kind of try to stay in character and send people dead rats. And whether that's true or not, I don't know. But Leto's a weird fucking dude. He's really a weird. He's very strange.
Yeah.
Honestly,
the character sucked.
Yeah. I mean, the portrayal sucked of him. Honestly, I don't want to see him in a purple Lamborghini. It doesn't work. Honestly, like, I've always wanted to see like Willem Dafoe as the Joker.
Oh yeah,
because he scares me without the makeup. Imagine that face under your fucking bed. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's funny because I think I have him too ingrained as the Goblin for me in order to go with the Joker. But I see what you're saying for sure. But to me, he played such a great Norman Osborn that
he was perfect. Yeah, Norman Osborn
yeah.
was perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just so awesome. I don't think I could ever see him now but yeah, even the in the mirror, the smile, even without the makeup, it was
Yeah.
like, oh wow, that's very very Joker-esque. But
Absolutely.
it's funny. It does, once again, we kind of touched on this already, but it there's some really difficult things to kind of wrap your mind around in that movie, but I don't think it was out of the realm of believability, at least yet, or it wasn't totally breaking your immersion yet. Now, the school bus thing in the beginning was really close. Like, the school bus thing was, for me, I had to stop in a second, but those couple of seconds with the Joker on screen were already so interesting, and that scene was so engaging. I really was able to forgive a lot of that. And then, as we move through, the movie, there's so much that's like really like, there was just a lot that was like, wow, okay, did that, like, it was cool though. It was done so well that you did getting Lao out of China, and there's so many things that
there's a lot of things that, okay, so it basically, and we talked about this in the first one too, like, you can't actually write a script that's completely realistic, otherwise nothing will happen,
right,
because life just doesn't work that way. And I don't care if you're writing even a drama, there's things even in dramas that you kind of have to embellish a little to make it work, you know what I mean? Life can be a lot crazier, but at times a lot more boring than a cinema, you know what I mean? That's why we go to the cinema, because we need something else. But like, they didn't do anything too crazy that you could really be like, because the Joker was very clever, and you're like, if anyone could pull it off, it'd be the Joker, you know what I mean?
To even call out some of that stuff, I really do struggle to criticize that movie outside of what we've already kind of talked about. I think it's one of the better superhero films that exist. Overall,
I don't know if you can hear me, buddy. Oh, there you are. Okay, you
you
cut out for a minute.
Gotcha. I was going to say, I really think it's hard for me to criticize that movie, because I do feel it's one of the better superhero films that exist. Mickey Rourke as an aged up Joker, Pixel says, yeah, that might work. Actually, he could probably pull something interesting off. I could go either way on whether it might be good or not, but I think Mickey Rourke is just really an interesting guy to watch.
I can barely look at him anymore after all the surgery he's had.
That's true. The first Joker was Latino.
He's basically a goddamn clown now.
I want to see Danny Trejo as a senior Joker. I don't know if it would be. I don't know if you could pull. I don't know if that would work, but I'd have to think about that for a minute. It'd be interesting.
Come on, that'd be like an old grumpy Joker. Come on, that'd be great.
It would be funny.
I know.
I gotta say though, because we're at 45 minutes, and I hate Dark Knight Rises with such a passion that I feel like
we're gonna have to save it for a part 2. We're not gonna make the Dark Knight.
All right.
We have to. We got like 15 minutes, and I got a couple more points about the Dark Knight.
All right, good.
So another scene that if you watch it a few times, okay, there's a certain way. This has nothing to do with any particular scene, but it happens a lot in this movie. There's a certain way to film costume characters, because they can either look really cool or they can look like Uncle Sam or Uncle Jack or whatever, just standing in your room with a cape on, and it looks really fucking weird. You know what I mean? It could look cool, or like a guy with a cape and a suit, and you're like, why are you wearing that? You look like an idiot. Okay? So in Batman Begins, he was crouching on things a lot. He played up the shadows more. He played up the crouching more. You didn't get shots of almost full body him standing in a room talking to someone. Dark Knight was almost all of that. You get shots of him just kind of standing in the bank. You get shots of a really awkward shot, which is from the comic book, but you needed to film it differently was when he was just standing there on the rooftop while Harvey Dent and Jim Gordon were like arguing at each other. And he's just like standing there like, all right, guys, what? It was really awkward. They only used like one take, and it was like a far away take. So it's literally 3 guys on a rooftop. One's dressed as Batman and 2 are yelling at each other. They didn't bring it out. And so they did that a lot in this movie, where Christian Bale was a guy in a costume instead of Batman.
Right. Yeah. That, I mean, there were definitely, and speaking of the costume, in looking back, it looks pretty bad. Like I
don't mind it. It does. I don't know which one I liked more. I think I liked the like the head part more on the second costume, but the body in the first one.
Yeah, see, I don't like I think the head, I understand the logic behind why they changed it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look good. Like I went back and watched it, like, okay, I know they gave the explanation and he can move his head now, fantastic, but it still looks like crap. And I feel like there was a better way to do that. But I had to sneak that in there. But you're right. The way they shot Batman in the second one was definitely different. And some of the angles just were not really just aesthetically pleasing to see. Like,
because when Michael Keaton was having that fight in the church and he was in the bell tower, there were scenes of him standing there. There were scenes of him, like full body scenes, but the camera was like on the floor. And you know what I mean? There's ways to do it. There's ways to do it that you still look cool. And Nolan just didn't give a shit or didn't know how to do it because it's not his type of movie, really.
Right. I agree. There were definitely ways you could have shot that would have looked more interesting than just Batman standing there like, sup.
It looked, dude, like, and here's the thing. If you guys are if you've never noticed these things, and you go back and watch these movies now, which if you love them, you'll watch them eventually. You're going to see it. And I'm sorry for ruining a lot of this for you. You're not going to be able to let it go. I can't let it go. I can't even listen to him speak. And it sucks. I can't even listen to Christian Bale speak by the end of The Dark Knight because Christian Bale has these lips and this certain way of speaking because he's Welsh that you're like, holy shit. Like, you would know who that was even in the dark. You would know that that's Christian Bale talking. I've seen, I forget what the comedians' names are, but like I've seen people. Yes, fucking spot on, and it's a parody. It's a spot on parody. That shouldn't be. It's hilarious.
Oh my goodness. I was watching him a little bit ago, just remembering how hilarious his Batman was.
He didn't even have to exaggerate. It was still funny.
Right.
That's not a good sign. That's not good. Holy shit, dude.
He did one where he was talking about, he was talking to Superman. And it was after the Batman versus Superman stuff. So it'd been like long
they were
after
on the rooftop.
Film. But they're on the rooftop, and he's like, it's a symbol of my people. He's like, hope starts with H, stupid. And it's like awesome. I'm like, that is great,
dude. Pete Holmes, he's got I this has nothing to do with anything, but I will watch. He's got it's from, I don't know if it's his show or College Humor. I think it's the Pete Holmes show where he has Professor Xavier firing the X-Men. And I will watch that over and over and still fucking piss myself laughing. It is hilarious.
They're very vulgar, but they get me good every single time. I can't help but chuckle at them. And Pixel added a couple of things. He said, speaking of lighting, we got to talk about the Batman then, which maybe we'll have to save for part 2 for sure.
Maybe I'll talk about the lighting. We have 10 minutes. You know what I mean? It depends on where Pixel is going. I don't know if he liked the lighting or thought it was too dark. A lot of people thought it was too dark. I enjoyed it. I liked
I liked the Batman a lot more than I expected to, actually. I was very hesitant going in. I really loved the tone of that film.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm still not sold on the climax of that film. Like I love the movie, but the ending felt what's the word, or what is it that I'm looking for? It didn't feel like there was a
Did it not feel grand enough?
yeah, it felt like it just sort of fizzled, and I was a little disappointed by that. I was hoping for some sort of
Yeah.
crescendo. That's what I'm looking for. There needed to be some sort of crescendo to that film, like where there's the big finish, and it just didn't happen that way. Not necessarily awful, but I felt like it was missing something. And then the one gripe I do have, speaking of bad Jokers, was that scene with the Joker in that movie.
Horrible.
That was
Horrible.
awful.
And there's
Awful.
an extent, there's like an edited scene that where he actually asked the Joker, kind of like Hannibal Lecter, trying to figure out who the Riddler is. So there's a cut scene that you can find on YouTube where he has an interview with that Joker. Fucking horrible. It's the worst. It's like a college actor trying to be the Joker. It was the worst. And I don't know why, because the movie was so fucking perfect. So for me and Brittany, because me and Brittany went to the theater to see that and King of Monsters with You were like the only two movies that we had seen in theaters in years, right?
Yeah.
And we walked out of both just happy. It's just happy
Sure.
as can be. No. Godzilla vs. Kong.
Versus Kong, yeah.
Yeah. So, and immediately for me, listen, I'm a kid of the 80s. So when Michael Keaton came out in 89, I was the perfect age. He's my Batman forever. And somehow Robert Pattinson went right up next to him right after that movie for me. That movie was it's almost like, is it good because everything else is shit? Well, yes, but it's also good because it's fucking good. Like, it's really good. And
I really enjoyed the movie overall. I think what they did with the Riddler was really interesting. Different, but interesting. I was really surprised overall. I think Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, like, I think I would have liked to have seen him pull off like the suave, debonair Bruce a little bit. Like, we didn't really see that out of him at all. Like, and I get he was dark, brooding.
I actually
Bruce.
didn't mind it. I actually didn't mind it because we've seen that so much. So to have an actually different take on Bruce Wayne that still makes sense, I actually liked it.
Okay, and that's fair. I just Brittany's got.
I just want to defend that for a second too.
Hold on. Let me turn my thing down.
Okay, I think that it worked that he was like the brooding, more pouty Bruce Wayne, because his face just looks younger than what Christian Bale's did as Bruce Wayne. So I think it fit a little bit better because he's never like spoiled and cocky about being rich. He's been rich for forever. So that's why I think it worked to go that way rather than debonair fucking guy.
Yeah, I think part of Bruce Wayne's personality though is his disguise, as you know what I mean, because I'll call Bruce Wayne the disguise here. Like, that's kind of how he masks, because like it's like, I wonder who Batman is. Like, oh, it couldn't be the dreary goth standing in the corner over there with all that money, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, to me, it just, Bruce Wayne, no one believes is Batman, or at least no one really has figured out that it's Batman, is because he's so different. Like, you can't imagine him as this dark, brooding hero kind of thing. And I think that's
a good point. It's a good point. And it just, like, something like that would usually bother me. This time it just didn't. Like, I just didn't need it because
it didn't really bother me. But I would have liked to have seen something. Would have liked to just see something that they touched on. I have one more point. about the Dark Knight before we get off this. But there's a couple of plot holes. So at the end of the film, they have this whole cover up, right? They pin things on the Batman, and he's going to be hunted. All those things that never come to fruition in The Dark Knight Rises, really, which it just fast forwards 8 years, and it's like, oh, remember how that we left it on like almost a cliffhanger? Who cares?
It would have been so cool seeing Batman fight cops and shit, but not try to hurt them and stuff. Like, that would have been awesome.
Right. It would have been incredible. It would have made we'll get to that in part 2, but there's at least I'm trying to remember. There's the female officer. I think there's 2. I have to go back and watch it, but there's at least 2 people. Oh yeah, the other guy, the one that Morgan Freeman says he's gonna out Batman on TV, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna blackmail this person? Good luck." Right? For 8 years between those 2 movies, we're to believe that guy, Batman's disappeared, and that guy never comes forward to come out with what information he has. And the other thing is, there's a female cop. I think it's Ramirez is her name.
Yep.
She's alive and knows that Harvey Dent is Two-Face.
Yep.
Right. Like, so when you talk to, like, at the end of that movie, there are some loose ends that I was expecting and hoping. Here's why they're flaws with The Dark Knight, because I don't think they necessarily had to be flaws in that film. But The Dark Knight Rises kind of make them flaws because it never elaborates. It continues the story in such a way where those become flaws.
It made them flaws. Actually, I agree. I agree completely. I agree. Actually, so we got 2 minutes. So, because I actually forgot my original point of Batman just standing there. So we can do this. So
we can do this. 2 minutes.
In the party in Bruce Wayne's penthouse where they're all drinking and the Joker shows up and it's a cool little scene. How do I get these scars? All of a sudden, Batman, he's like, then you're gonna love me. And he's just standing there and he starts attacking Joker and his henchmen. How did he get there? How did Batman, just because I understand that with camera work, it looks like he just appeared, but logistically, he had to get in there and no one saw him. His henchmen didn't see him. It was just, again, the first time you see it, the second time, but the 7th time or 8th time, you're like, what?
I'm sorry.
What?
I just heard that there is no 8 p.m. show, so if you guys bleed it over, it's A-okay.
Oh, cool. Okay. Thanks,
awesome.
Babe. Thanks, babe.
So, all right. So let's.
I thought you were gonna yell at me. That's why I was like, what? So yeah,
the sad part is there, in my brain.
Like he's like waiting for the Joker to say his piece, and then it's weird.
So in my head, I immediately went to Batman. I don't know if you know what a Naruto run is, but
no.
Okay, so there's a stupid anime that the kids watch called Naruto.
I know the anime.
I apologize if anyone's familiar and likes the anime. I'm not a fan, but he kind of runs hunched over with his arms behind him. I don't know why. And
Sonic does that too, because my son runs like that. I'm like, put your fucking arms out, because if you trip, you're not face planting.
Right. Well, teenagers do this, and it's a thing now, right?
Really?
So that was where my brain first went. It is Batman just Naruto running into the room and standing behind the Joker, all slick.
He's got his ears. You're gonna love me.
Batman's just walking in the room
Oh,
no one say anything.
Oh my god! It's so again.
He slipped out from behind a bookcase, running with his hands thrown behind his back. Exactly.
Awesome.
It's
a great scene, but then you watch it and you're like, wait, where's the setup? That doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It's really weird.
If they showed him land from coming down from the ceiling
Matt
or
already
something.
said it was what it was. I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah. So if he would have dropped down from the ceiling or something like that, that would have been
a comic book might do, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like any Batman would do in the history of Batmans. Yeah, that's
yes, exactly. No, you're absolutely right. It didn't make any sense. I'm like, did Joker not get the sense that people were looking at the guy dressed in black standing immediately behind him?
great. Yeah, like
You
it's
know?
no, it doesn't. Like it irritates me. Like when he tried to be surprising about Batman being somewhere, it comes off as, oh, how the hell did he get there? And then when he should be using the shadows, he's just standing there in the room, like talking to someone. He's not doing it right.
Pixel, I was going to say that too, crashing through a window with batarangs flying, like, or just
They
coming
have
through the
not done that
skylight.
yet, and that would be awesome. Holy shit, that'd be great.
Yeah. You know, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You know, who cares? And then, you know, I don't know. Like, there's so many ways to do that. You're absolutely right, though. It does sort of break the logic of it. I still love that movie.
But I think you'll always love that movie. I'll always love that movie. But
Yeah.
again, like here's the thing here. Like, I know probably for a fact that I've seen it more than you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So because again, when I draw, I just put these things on and they're just there all the time, you know? So they've had more years to wear on me than you do, you know?
Yes. Excuse me,
Batfleck.
but Batfleck crashed all around the place.
He did, but the batarangs weren't flying. And actually, it's funny that she said Batfleck, because I was thinking if there was going to be a Batman that did that, it would have been like a Snyder Batman, because Snyder can get those. As many things I don't like about Snyder and his universe, he could make things look cool. If he really wanted to, he could make things look cool. So yeah, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. He definitely could have made it look cool. I'm still. It's one of those things where I have a love hate relationship with that trilogy, because I'm the type where I have to.
Yep.
I have a hard time ignoring something, like if they've added something and messed it up. And I feel like the first two were super solid, not perfect, but I think they were really solid. Even though, like I said, in hindsight, I dislike the fact that they kind of don't do some of the characters justice. And you know, like Two-Face was around for about 5 minutes. Like,
yeah,
you take this Batman character with a lot of history. You get, honestly, I kind of like what they did with it. It wasn't the acid. Although I will say that the whole, I like half my face is literally missing was another thing that I'm just like, yeah, that dude's going to die of an infection in about 5 minutes. But
in a comic book sense, he wouldn't.
Sure.
But it's not a comic book movie. It's a realistic movie. So he should have died of bacterial infection.
Yeah, I had a
staph, and then that's it.
Yeah, I guess I just that the way he recovered quick enough to be like Scary Skeleton Man, you know, was a little tough. But again, all forgivable stuff in the long run. It just to me, it's really interesting that he reveals himself to all these people, and then he's basically gone almost instantly. And it's sad, because I think that it made sense for the plot they were going for, and then they stopped the plot. Like, they literally went in a totally different direction. I think that was the most jarring thing about that trilogy, was you had this gap in time between it and The Dark Knight Rises, and really they gave us a Batman we didn't even want to see. Like, I did not sign up for... I didn't feel like they finished the story that they were telling.
You didn't want to see Batman with bad knees?
Yeah, and then you want to talk about ridiculous, that his back and knees are magically fixed by the end of the movie. Like, in the beginning, he needs a freaking device so he can kick a wall harder. Like,
it's weird, because he kicked the brick wall with his foot, which still would have broken. You know?
Right, yeah.
And I understand it helps your knee, buddy, but you're wearing, like, you know, a Puma. You're going to get your foot's going to break.
So he regenerated cartilage by the end of the film. He healed from the darkness in the Bane orphan. Yeah. Right. We see this aging Batman. He's disappeared for 8 years. Nothing comes of that whole plot. Like, you had what was widely considered the best superhero movie. I mean, at the time, people were red hot for that movie, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you just totally ignore it almost. Like, it's not ignored, but like, you didn't capitalize on anything that you started there.
Yeah.
And I think, we could, and we're going to need a whole nother half an hour to talk about
that's what we're going to do. So I think we're going to stop it here. And here's the thing. We're going to need a part 2 for this, because on this next one, on the last movie, we could probably do the whole hour on the last movie, because it was the one that fell apart the most, besides Tom Hardy, who was phenomenal. He's good in anything.
Even his voice is a little goofy for me. I listened to him.
His voice is a little goofy, but I will tell you, I still really like it. But we can talk about that. So we're going to be back every Monday. It's going to be The Adventures of MattMan and Romo every Monday. I'm going to have Romo art on Fridays. I think the Richness might be joining me this Friday. That'll be cool. He's always awesome to have on. Love talking to him. And Matt, you can always come on my show whenever the fuck you want. You can, if you're not busy Friday with one of your many responsibilities, you're welcome. But this is what I'm going to do too. I'm going to have Brittany wait to post the original audio of this conversation until next week now, because we didn't finish, because I don't want any spoilers for what we talk about on Monday. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because in the original audio, we did get through all 3 movies.
Was it just the Nolan films that we covered?
It was just the Nolan films that we covered. That's all we covered.
Gotcha.
And we actually did really good. We stayed on topic and everything.
That's amazing, actually.
I know. I'm really surprised. And
we did pretty well today.
We did. Well. We did. I mean, we got through, like I said, this last movie where it really had plot holes. We can talk about this one for a while. So then we'll have time to enjoy some tangents here and there too. So let's end this one right here. I'm gonna have Brittany roll us out. And
thank you, Brittany,
for joining everyone. Thanks for everyone for coming.
Pixel for joining us.
Yeah. And love you guys, and we're gonna see you again.
See you next week.
Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some.
Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.